Imagine for a moment that you are standing on the edge of a vast open field. The grass sways gently in the breeze, stretching as far as the eye can see. In this field, there is just one tree, tall, strong, and solitary. That tree, my friends, is you. You are that tree standing alone, yet standing. You might be thinking, why would I want to stand alone? Is not it better to be part of a forest? And that's a fair question. We're often told that strength comes in numbers, that we need to fit in to be part of the crowd. But today I want to challenge that notion. I want to explore with you the power, the beauty, and the necessity of standing alone. Standing alone is not about isolation. It is not about cutting yourself off from the world or rejecting others. No, standing alone is about finding your own strength, your own voice, your own path. It is about having the courage to be uniquely you in a world that often demands conformity. Think about some of the greatest innovators and change makers in history. People like Einstein, Gandhi, or Martin Luther King Jr., these individuals did not change the world by following the crowd. They stood alone in their convictions, in their visions, in their dreams. They dared to be different, to think differently, to act differently. But standing alone is not just for the famous or the extraordinary. It is for each and every one of us. It is for you. Because you, my friend, are extraordinary in your own right. You have a unique combination of experiences, thoughts, and talents that no one else in this world has. And when you stand alone, when you embrace your uniqueness, you give the world the gift of you. I know standing alone can be scary. It can feel vulnerable. When we stand with the crowd, we can hide, we can blend in, we can feel safe in our anonymity, but that safety comes at a cost. The cost of your authenticity, your potential, your purpose. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young artist who loved to paint in vibrant, bold colors, but in art school, the trend was minimalism, black and white, stark lines, and empty spaces. For a while, this young artist she painted in black and white. She followed the trends. And yes, her work was accepted. She fit in, but she wasn't happy. Her art did not speak to her soul anymore. One day, she decided to stand alone. She picked up her brightest colors and painted a canvas full of life and vibrancy. When she presented it to her class, there was silence, then criticism. It is not what's in style, they said. It is too much, they said. But there was one person, a visiting art collector, who saw it differently. This, he said, is original. This is brave. This is art. That painting went on to launch her career. By standing alone, by being true to herself, she found her path to success. But more importantly, she found her joy again. She found herself. When you stand alone, you dare to be different. You give others permission to do the same. You become a beacon for authenticity in a world of conformity. But standing alone is not always about grand gestures or life-changing decisions. Sometimes it is in the small, everyday choices we make. It is choosing kindness when others are unkind. It is speaking up for what's right when others stay silent. It is pursuing your passion even when others do not understand it. I want you to think for a moment about a time when you stood alone. Maybe it was a time when you voiced an unpopular opinion. Maybe it was when you pursued a dream that others thought was foolish. How did it feel? Scary, probably. Uncomfortable, certainly. But also liberating, wasn't it? There's a unique kind of freedom in being true to yourself, in standing firm in your beliefs and values. I am not saying it is easy. Standing alone requires courage. It requires strength. It requires a deep sense of self-worth, because when you stand alone, you will face criticism. You will face doubt, both from others and sometimes from yourself. You will face the fear of failure and the fear of judgment. But here is the things. Those doubts, that criticism, they're all part of the journey. They're not obstacles to overcome. They're opportunities to grow stronger. Each time you stand alone, each time you choose authenticity over conformity, you build your inner strength. You become more resilient, more confident, more you. The more you practice standing alone, the easier it becomes. It is like a muscle that grows stronger with use. The first time you speak up in a meeting when everyone else is silent, that's tough. The 10th time, still not easy, but easier. The 100th time, it becomes second nature. Why is it so important to stand alone? Why can't we just go with the flow? Follow the crowd. Take the path of least resistance. Because, my friends, that's not what we're here for. We're not here to be carbon copies of each other. We're not here to live someone else's life or to fulfill someone else's expectations. We're here to be ourselves, fully and unapologetically. We're here to make our unique mark on the world. Think about nature for a moment. In nature, diversity is strength. An ecosystem thrives when it has a variety of plants and animals, each playing its unique role. A monoculture, where everything is the same, is fragile. It is vulnerable to disease and environmental changes. The same is true for human society. We need diversity of thought, of skills, of perspectives. We need people who are willing to stand alone, to think differently, to challenge the status quo. Because that's how we grow. That's how we innovate. That's how we solve the big problems facing our world. When you stand alone, you're not just doing it for yourself. You are doing it for all of us. You are contributing your unique perspective, your unique talents to the world. And we need that. We need you. I can almost hear some of you thinking, but what if I am wrong? What if my ideas are bad? What if I fail? And to that I say, so what if you are? So being wrong, having bad ideas, failing. These are not the opposites of standing alone. They are part of it. They are part of any journey worth taking. The opposite of standing alone is never trying, never speaking up, never being yourself. Remember, standing alone does not mean you have to be right all the time. It does not mean you have to be perfect. It simply means you have the courage to be yourself, to voice your thoughts, to follow your path, even when it is different from everyone else's. And standing alone does not mean you'll always be alone. In fact, when you stand alone, when you are true to yourself, you often find your true tribe. You attract people who appreciate you for who you really are, not for who you are pretending to be. Think about it. When you pretend to be someone you are not, you might fit in, but you'll never truly connect. You'll always feel like an imposter, always fear being found out. But when you stand alone, when you are authentically you, you open the door to genuine connection. You create the opportunity for people to love and appreciate the real you. Let me share another story with you. There was a young man who loved to write poetry. But in his small town, poetry wasn't considered a manly pursuit. So he kept it hidden. He played football. He went hunting. He did all the things but he wasn't happy. He felt like he was living someone else's life. One day, he decided to stand alone. He entered a poetry contest. When his friends found out, they laughed, they teased him, some even stopped talking to him. It was hard, but he stood his ground. He continued writing, continued entering, and then something amazing happened. He won a national contest. Suddenly, the same people who had teased him were congratulating him. But more importantly, he started receiving letters from other closet poets in his town. People who, like him, had been afraid to show their true selves. By standing alone, he had given them the courage to do the same. When you stand alone, you give others permission to do the same. You become a lighthouse, showing others that it is okay to be different, to be true to yourself. I want to address something important. Standing alone does not mean you have to be in conflict with others. It does not mean you have to be confrontational or disruptive. You can stand alone quietly, peacefully. You can respect others' views while staying true to your own. In fact, that's one of the most powerful ways to stand alone, to be secure enough in your own beliefs that you can listen to and respect others even when you disagree. Think of it like this. You are at a party, and everyone is drinking alcohol. You do not drink, but you do not want to make a big deal about it. You can quietly sip your soda, enjoy the company, and still be true to yourself. You are standing alone in your choice without making others uncomfortable or putting them down for their choices. This is the art of standing alone, being true to yourself without needing to change others. It is about having the inner strength to be who you are, regardless of what others think or do. But let's be real for a moment. Standing alone is not always going to feel good. There will be times when it is uncomfortable, when it is scary, when it is lonely. There will be times when you question yourself, when you wonder if it wouldn't be easier to just go along with the crowd. And in those moments, I want you to remember this, Discomfort is the price of growth. Those uncomfortable moments, those scary times, they're not signs that you are doing something wrong. They are signs that you are growing, that you are pushing your boundaries, that you are becoming more you. Think about it like exercise. When you work out, it is uncomfortable. Your muscles ache, you sweat, you get tired. But that discomfort is a sign that you are getting stronger. The same is true when you stand alone. The discomfort you feel is a sign that you are strengthening your character, your conviction, your... Embrace that discomfort. Welcome it. See it for what it is, the feeling of you becoming more you. I want to talk about something that often holds people back from standing alone. The fear of judgment. We're social creatures. We crave acceptance, approval. The thought of others judging us, criticizing us, rejecting us. People are going to judge you, no matter what you do. If you conform, they'll judge you for being a follower. If you stand out, they'll judge you for being different. So if you are going to be judged anyway, why not be judged for being authentically you? Most of the time, people aren't judging you nearly as much as you think they are. Most people are too busy worrying about their own lives to spend much time judging yours. And those who do judge, well, their judgments say more about them than they do about you. Instead of worrying about what others think, focus on what you think. Are you proud of who you are? Are you living in alignment with your values? Are you being true to yourself? These are the questions that matter. Remember, at the end of your life, you won't be answering to your critics. You'll be answering to yourself. Make sure you can look back and say, I was true to myself. I stood for what I believed in. I made the most of my unique gifts. Talk about the power of standing alone in decision-making. In life, we're constantly faced with decisions, some big, some small, but all shaping the course of our lives. And often, we look to others to help us make these decisions. We ask for advice. We look for consensus. We try to figure out what the right choice is. And there is nothing wrong with seeking input from others. Wisdom often comes from many sources. But ultimately, the decisions in your life need to be yours. You need to be able to stand alone in your choices. Why? Because you are the one who has to live with the consequences of your decisions. You are the one who knows your heart, your dreams, your values. Only you can decide what's right for you. I once knew a woman who had a successful career in finance. She made good money, had prestige, security, but she wasn't happy. Deep down, she'd always wanted to be a teacher. For years, she ignored that desire. She listened to those who told her she'd be foolish to give up her high-paying job. She worried about what others would think if she stepped down to become a teacher. But finally, she decided to stand alone. Against the advice of many, she quit her job and went back to school to become a teacher. It wasn't easy. She had to downsize her lifestyle, deal with the skepticism of friends and family. But for the first time in years, she felt alive. She was following her heart. Today, she's been a teacher for over a decade. And she'll tell you it's the best decision she ever made. By standing alone in her decision, by choosing to follow her own path, rather than the one others thought she should take, she found her true calling. Sometimes standing alone means going against the grain. It means making choices that others might not understand or approve of. But those choices, the ones that align with your true self, are often the ones that lead to the greatest fulfillment. I want to address something important. Standing alone does not mean you have to do everything alone. It does not mean you can't ask for help, cannot lean on others, cannot be part of a community. In fact, knowing when to ask for help is a strength, not a weakness. Standing alone is about being true to yourself, about making your own choices, about being willing to go your own way when necessary. But it is not about isolation. We are, after all, social creatures. We need connection. We need support. We need love. The key is to find the right balance, to be strong enough to stand alone when necessary, but wise enough to know when to reach out, to be true to yourself, but open to others, to march to the beat of your own drum, but to appreciate the music others make too. Think of it like dancing. Sometimes you dance alone, expressing yourself freely. Sometimes you dance with a partner, moving in harmony. Sometimes you're part of a group dance, part of something bigger than yourself. All of these dances have their place. The key is to always be true to your own rhythm, whether you are dancing alone or with others. We near the end of our time together. I want to leave you with a challenge. For the next week, I want you to practice standing alone in small ways. Maybe it is voicing an opinion in a meeting, even if it is different from everyone else's. Maybe it is pursuing a hobby you love, even if your friends think it is weird. Maybe it is making a decision based on what you want, not what others expect. Whatever it is, I want you to practice standing alone. And as you do, pay attention to how it feels. Notice the discomfort, yes, but also notice the sense of authenticity, of alignment with your true self. And remember, every time you stand alone, you are not just changing your own life. You are changing the world around you. You are showing others that it is okay to be different, to be authentic, to be true to oneself. You are creating a ripple effect of authenticity and courage that can change lives in ways. In closing, I want to remind you of that solitary tree we imagined at the beginning. Standing alone in that vast field. It might seem vulnerable, exposed, but think about the strength of that tree. Its roots grow deep, its branches stretch wide, unrestrained. It weathers storms that would fell weaker. That tree, standing alone, is not weak. It is not isolated. It is strong, it is free, it is true to its nature. And so are you when you stand alone. When you are true to yourself, when you have the courage to be authentically, unapologetically you. Stand alone, my friends. Stand tall, stand proud, because when you stand alone, you stand for something. You stand for authenticity. You stand for courage. You stand for the beautiful, unique individual that you are. And in doing so, you give the world the greatest gift you can give, the gift of you, the real you, the authentic you, the you that only you can be. Go forth. Stand alone. And in doing so, stand tall. Because the world needs you with the real you. Standing alone is not just about personal growth or self-expression. It is also about leadership. True leaders are those who can stand alone when necessary, who can make tough decisions and stick to their principles even when it is unpopular. Think about the great leaders in history. They weren't people who simply went along with the crowd. They were individuals who had the courage to stand up for what they believed in, even when they stood alone. They were the ones who saw a different future and had the courage to pursue it even when others couldn't see it. When you have the courage to stand alone, to be a leader, you often find that you are not alone for long. People are drawn to authenticity, to courage, to conviction. When you stand alone, you become a beacon for others who share your values, your vision, but perhaps lack the courage to express it. This is how movements start. This is how change happens. It begins with one person willing to stand alone. Talk about the power of standing alone in creativity and innovation. The world's greatest inventions, its most beautiful works of art, its most revolutionary ideas. These did not come from people who were trying to fit in. They came from people who were willing to stand alone, to see things differently, to challenge the status quo. When you stand alone, you free your mind from the constraints of conventional thinking. You allow yourself to see possibilities that others might miss. You give yourself permission to dream bigger, to think more creatively, to innovate more boldly. Think about the Wright brothers. When they proposed the idea of human flight, they were laughed at. The prevailing wisdom of the time said it was impossible, but they stood alone in their conviction. They pursued their vision despite the skepticism and ridicule. And in doing so, they changed the world. Or consider Vincent van Gogh. During his lifetime, his unique style of painting was largely misunderstood and unappreciated. He stood alone in his artistic vision, creating works that were unlike anything seen before. Today, he's recognized as one of the most influential figures in Western art. These examples teach us an important lesson. Today's lone voice can become tomorrow's chorus. The idea that seems strange or impossible today might be commonplace tomorrow, but for that to happen, someone needs to have the courage to stand alone today. I want to address a fear that often holds people back from standing alone. The fear of being wrong. We live in a culture that often equates being wrong with being weak or foolish, but this couldn't be further from the truth. Being wrong is not the opposite of standing alone. Being afraid to be wrong is. When you stand alone, you are not claiming to have all the answers. You are not saying you are infallible. You're simply saying that you have the courage to think for yourself, to form your own opinions, to make your own choices, and yes, sometimes to be wrong. Being wrong is how we learn. It is how we grow. It is how we discover new truths. The person who never stands alone for fear of being wrong is the person who never truly learns, never truly grows, never truly discovers. Think about science for a moment. Scientific progress does not happen when everyone agrees. It happens when someone stands alone and says, I think there might be another explanation. Sometimes they are wrong, but sometimes they revolutionize our understanding of the world. The same is true in every field, in every aspect of life. Progress, growth, innovation. These do not come from always being right. They come from being willing to stand alone, to put forth your ideas, your vision, your truth, even at the risk of being wrong. I encourage you, do not let the fear of being wrong keep you from standing alone. Embrace the possibility of being wrong. See it not as a failure, but as a stepping stone to greater understanding, to personal growth, to eventual success. Talk about the power of standing alone in the face of adversity. Life will inevitably throw challenges your way. There will be times when you face obstacles that seem insurmountable, problems that seem unsolvable, situations that seem hopeless. In these moments, the ability to stand alone becomes crucial, because in the face of great adversity, it is easy to give up. It is easy to say, well, everyone else has given up, so why shouldn't I? It is easy to let the pessimism of others infect your own outlook. But this is precisely when standing alone matters most. When you can hold on to your hope, your determination, your vision of a better future, even when those around you have lost theirs, that's when you truly demonstrate the power of standing alone. Think about Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years. He stood alone in his conviction that apartheid would end, that a better South Africa was possible. Even in the confines of a prison cell, he stood tall in his beliefs, and eventually, the world stood with him. Or consider Helen Keller, who stood alone in her determination to communicate and engage with the world, despite being both deaf and blind. Her indomitable spirit not only transformed her own life, but inspired millions around the world. These individuals show us that standing alone is not about bravado or stubbornness. It is about resilience. It is about holding on to your core beliefs, your fundamental values, your essential self, even when the world seems to be conspiring against you. And here's a powerful truth. When you can stand alone in the face of adversity, you discover strengths within yourself that you never knew you had. You uncover reserves of courage, of resilience, of creativity that only reveal themselves when the next time you face a great challenge. Remember, your ability to stand alone, to hold on to your hope and your vision even when others have given up, is not just a personal strength. It is a gift to the world, because your resilience, your determination, can become a source of inspiration and hope for others. We draw this talk to a close. I want to leave you with one final thought. Standing alone is not a destination. It is a journey. It is a practice. It is something you choose to do every day in ways both big and small. Some days, standing alone will feel empowering, liberating. Other days, it will feel scary, isolating. Some days, you'll stand alone and change the world. Other days, you'll stand alone and no one will seem to notice or care. But I want you to remember, every time you choose to stand alone, to be true to yourself, to voice your authentic thoughts, to follow your unique path, you are growing, you are becoming more you, you are making the world a little richer, a little more diverse, a little more interesting. And who knows, the very thing that makes you stand alone today might be the thing that changes the world tomorrow. The idea that others dismiss today might be the innovation that transforms an industry in the future. The stand you take alone today might be the movement that inspires millions tomorrow. Stand alone, my friends. Stand tall, stand proud. Stand in your truth, in your uniqueness, in your authenticity. Because when you stand alone, you stand for something far greater than yourself. You stand for the power of the individual to make a difference. You stand for the courage to be true to oneself. You stand for the beautiful, endless diversity of human potential. And in doing so, you make the world a better, richer, more vibrant place. Not just for yourself,